What up, everybody? You are back in tune with another episode of In the Fields podcast. It is your host, Johnny, with my lovely wife, Lisa. Happy New Year's, guys, and welcome back. We are here
back on
in
set.
2026, the first official episode of 2026, because our last episode was New Year's Eve. So yeah, man, we are here, guys. We are here. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, good night, good evening, good afternoon. I think something like that. Something like that. That's what my boy Tony Ortiz would say. But yeah, man, we're back. And on this episode, we are going to be taking a deep dive into the realm of emotional maturity.
Ooh.
I think when it comes to emotional maturity, oftentimes we have like a weird misconception of it. You know, social media doing its due diligence.
A lot.
Yeah, social media doing its due diligence and creating standards for people and things of that nature. And, you know, people looking at social media as some sort of like almighty guide to living.
Well, because it gets looked at as, you know, once you become emotionally mature, you no longer cry, you no longer like have these feelings. When really it's just a form of suppression, because when you hinder what you're actually feeling, you're just suppressing it. When in fact, it's just being mature enough to understand what you're feeling and slow down your reaction to it.
Yep. Which takes us right into how I'd like to start our episode. And we can start this one off with a weekly check-in. But let's tie this weekly check-in maybe to a moment, maybe where we had to express a sense of emotional maturity, or maybe when we caught ourselves and instead of doing what our old selves would do, maybe what we did instead was a better choice. Or failing. Yeah,
that.
whichever one, you know what I mean? So why don't you start us off, baby? How's your week going? How has your journey in emotional maturity going? And, you know, loop us in either to a moment where you succeeded, maybe a moment where you failed, and now you're realizing that and, you know, wanting to reassess it and move forward in a different way.
I mean, I have one of both, because if we're looking at the whole week, my week started off pretty great. I mean, I've been reading that, you know, Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and I've been trying to really implement the things that I'm learning in the book, like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, the Let Them Theory, by just keeping myself locked in and focused and like allowing myself to not get overwhelmed by the things that I cannot control. So like doing pretty well at that. And then New Year's Eve happened, and something ended up happening, and I definitely reacted. Did not think twice.
Are you talking about when your heel broke?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I could have, in that moment, just took a deep breath and brushed it off and should have, like, you know, it is what it is, but I'm not going to let it ruin my night. But at first, I did let it ruin my night. And looking back, I am kind of disappointed in myself, because I have done so much work, and the fact that I was just so quick to react is not very much like me anymore. So I'm a little disappointed in myself with how I handled that situation. And not even just that, like just the fact that I was just so consumed by my own feelings that I was like disregarding how like my reactions to it was affecting anyone else around me. I think that upset me the most, because I hate doing that. But thankfully I was able to like get a grasp of everything and allowed myself to not let it ruin my entire night, you know, whereas I did want to leave. I was just like, you know what, fuck this. I just want to go home. But like looking back, like if I would have went home, I would have missed my best friend's proposal, and then I would have been more upset. So like I'm glad that I was able to just turn it around within, you know, a time frame, and just still was able to enjoy my night and not let it just completely consume me. So like I feel like there's a little bit of a win in there, and to me a win is a win.
Oh yeah, man. No, I like that. I mean, I was there for that, so
I know.
It's funny because that was going to be the same thing that I referenced in my weekly check-in. Because
I was super proud of you and very thankful for how you responded to my nonsense.
Yeah, that was gonna be that was gonna be my example in my weekly check-in. Was normally whenever somebody snaps or is emotional around me, I typically match energy or exceed energy and then shut them down, which is something that I'm definitely, accustomed to doing. But yeah, no, in this moment, I kind of just took the pause that I needed. I took the break that I needed. It is what it is. I can't control it. Let me just focus on the things that I can control. And, it resulted in me being fine and you apologizing a million times. So to me, that worked out. I didn't express any negative energy. I didn't expel or waste any energy or put it in towards anything that it wasn't, it wasn't a waste of energy for me. Instead of what I normally do is I let other people's emotions or I let other people's emotional states disrupt my own emotional state. And like you said, you were proud of me. I was proud of myself, man. I was just proud of myself for being cool, calm, and collected. Granted, I know that like my communication wasn't the best because oftentimes when I am in those situations, communication is hard for me to even conduct because my communication can get hijacked by my emotions. So that ends up, instead of words coming from like my head to my mouth, it starts coming from like my heart to my mouth.
Yeah.
And that ends up resulting in, just nonsense,
But that's the thing. We're still learning and we're still trying to apply the things that we're learning. And it takes time. But even just being able to acknowledge what happened and being able to navigate it and that's coming back together and just being like, I'm sorry. And you know what? Let's just have a good night. And then it was just what it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to me, it's like a strong sense of emotional maturity when you're able to do that. Just kind of, again, doing what you normally wouldn't, when you were not as emotionally mature, you made impulsive decisions, emotional decisions, and you just weren't capable of really, when you're not capable of really like handling things correctly, I think that's, and you look back on those moments when you've made those mistakes and you compare them to like how you handle things now, and it's just night and day,
Well, that's the thing, like, despite being disappointed in myself, with my initial reaction, just my comeback time, I guess you could call it, where like I was able to snap out of it, like, looking back, that would have ruined my entire day. Next day, I would have been emotionally hungover from it. Like, it would have really consumed me because my anger used to get the best of me. But now I'm in a place where, like, I'm still human. I'm not perfect. Yes, I reacted, but I was able to get a grasp on it a lot quicker than I've ever have, to where I'm just like, okay. Is what it is.
Yeah, and I think like, the most important thing is just for anybody dealing with, dealing with that like lost identity of like, again, that false hope of what emotional maturity is. Like you said earlier, a lot of times people think that it's like not having any feelings or, constantly being unbothered. And, emotional maturity isn't about not having emotions at all. It's about how you handle them, Yep. And I think that's the big wins for us lately is, looking back on certain situations and being like, wow, we handled that really well, So I love that for us.
Amen.
Oh, yeah, man. Before we get into the rest of the episode, though, let's give them a word from our sponsors. Y'all already know the vibes, man. Oula-Lade, the best lemonade in the entire world. Yeah, sounds like Blue's Clues every time you do that. But yeah, guys, Oula-Lade, the best lemonade, not only in the Lehigh Valley, not only in the 610, not only in Pennsylvania, but in the entire world. It is made with love, fresh squeezed, all natural ingredients.
So delicious.
Make sure you guys go follow them on Instagram at Oula_Lade. Once again, Oula_Lade. Tell them Johnny and Lisa sent you from In the Fields podcast, and I will be certain that they will, I'm for certain that they will take care of you guys the same way they take care of us. They're the best. And yeah, that's why they are our only drink sponsor.
And we will have them on set next week.
Yes, next week we will have them on set, and we will be enjoying them on the regular once again. And yeah, guys, until then, back to the episode. And we are back with another episode of In the Feels podcast. And yeah, guys, we are talking about, emotional maturity and oftentimes the confusion that, what people think it is versus what it really is, and, how to get there, and, the time that it takes and the work that it really requires for you to achieve true emotional maturity. I think oftentimes, especially with how social media portrays it, we often think that it has to do with always being unbothered or, never showing emotion. And, to me, and I think you mentioned it earlier, is that it's not so much about not having emotion, and oftentimes that people confuse emotional maturity for like emotional suppression. And they're constantly like burying it down versus addressing it in a healthy manner and expressing your emotions in a way that is controlled,
Yeah, just in a healthier manner. Because, like, when you suppress everything, you're actually making things worse for yourself in the long run, because you're not really addressing the true cause or the root cause of, like, what exactly is going on with you. Because, like, I think that's one of the things is a lot of people aren't able to pinpoint where their emotions are stemming from. Instead, they're just quick to react because they know they feel something. And then naturally, you're just reacting to it. But instead, if you learn the capacity and the ability of just, let me take a step back for a second. Like, maybe I need a second to, like, really think about what exactly it is I'm even upset about, or, like, what exactly I'm even feeling before, looking into how you can react to the situation. Because you might be quick to snap, but instead you might be able to just talk about it if you just give yourself that second to even process what you're even experiencing in that moment.
Yeah, and I think that's the big one too, where, the divide between, emotional suppression and emotional maturity is taking that time to really reflect on what you're feeling,
Yeah.
Not just labeling it as good or bad, but really diving deep into it and really pinpointing it, and even if you have to, kind of retracing it back to its origins or its steps, or like you said, where it stems from. I think that's super important when it comes to emotional maturity, because it just sets you up with the ability to choose. And I think oftentimes when emotions are involved, we let the emotions make the decisions instead of, like you said, taking that step back and reflecting, taking that minute. If you need a pause, pause. Pauses are so essential, whether it's with communication, emotional maturity. Taking that pause is everything, because when you need that break or you need that moment to just gather yourself, the pause is everything, whether you're talking and you just need that moment instead of scrambling around,
They say that even when you, like you said, like with communicating, instead of using filler words like and like,
Yeah.
you should just stop speaking. It doesn't make you look stupid or anything. Like, it's for you to just gather your thoughts.
And the more important something is, essentially, you should say it slower and have pauses within it. You don't want to cram everything down somebody's ear hole, or if they're absorbing it via video or audio, you know what I mean? You don't want to you don't want to like jam it down the listener's ears. You want them to, and whoever you're talking to, whether you're on a podcast or you're just communicating with somebody, you want to have moments where you're giving the person that's listening to you time to absorb what you're saying, but also give yourself time to be concise and to be intentional with what it is that you plan on saying.
I like that.
Oftentimes, again, emotionally suppressed people will allow moments where the emotion comes back up that they're trying to suppress, and it comes up in a way that they don't like it. It's almost like it becomes emotional vomit in a sense, where it comes back up because they're too busy trying to suppress it instead of handling it in a healthier manner.
Yeah.
And you know that just it just goes to show, you know, how essential it is to really try to get grips on, you know, your emotions. And people just don't.
I just don't think they think of it like that. You know what I mean?
I also think social media just dilutes the concept because, again, it creates these standards, and it creates standards with no actual guidance. That's like the one thing I don't like. Like, people on social media will tell you, you know, this, that, and a third, but there's really no build up on it. It's almost like this is just what it is. Yeah, you know, and again, I think that's so corny. Because you just need more than that, you know? You need more than somebody just telling you like, "Oh, this is what I do," and that's it. Like, you know, or I'm so unbothered. Nothing. I don't even. I haven't cried in forever. A lot of going like. I mean, it's just like I don't know.
But it's like, how did you get there? Because I've had moments where I've looked back and I'm like, yo, I really been feeling really unbothered lately, and it's nice. But then I look at like, okay, but what am I doing different in my day to day that's causing me to feel unbothered? I'm making choices to, you know, practice like this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the let them theory, stop worrying about things I can't control. Like when you gain control over yourself, your emotions, your thought process, life really does appear differently. Like that, like with this emotional, you know, maturity thing, one of the biggest things for me was learning how to pinpoint what's bothering me, because that was something that like I never really understood or knew how to do. I just knew I was upset, or I knew I was mad. And then I would just explode, or I would just take it out on whoever, or, you know, like I wouldn't really even take the time to be like, well, why am I really that upset? You know? And now I'm able to be like, okay, well, this happened and it made me feel this way and it bothered me because of XYZ. But then I'm like, at the same time, okay, all that happened, but is it really detrimental to my life? Like now I'm able to ask myself questions to kind of reroute my emotions almost. It's like I saw somebody talking about it, how like it's kind of like a GPS of life. When you're out driving and you're using your GPS, if you make a wrong turn, your GPS isn't going to scream at you or tell you how wrong you are. It's just going to reroute you. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with yourself. Like there's questions you can ask yourself, and there's ways to reroute what you're experiencing.
Yeah, and you're not always going to get it right. And that's okay. Like just
that's
because
the whole point.
just because you mess up doesn't mean you need to self-sabotage and talk negatively about yourself. You just reroute, you pivot, you move. Another good example of that was I forget who it was, but he was talking about kind of like how in life he's never made any mistakes. It's simply a maze. Like life is like a maze. Like you don't make any mistakes. You just went down the wrong path, and it
Gotta
just
turn around.
You just it just so happens to be that path was a dead end, but it's not a mistake. It just means now you have to pivot. You got to backtrack a little bit, go back to that last intersection and reroute yourself, like you said with the GPS, but in a sense taking a different path down the maze of life.
I like
you know
that too.
So
that's fire.
Yeah, I just think again, you know, when it comes to emotional maturity, again, I just think we confuse it with these people who are constantly silent, who are like always quote unquote calm or unbothered. And, you know, emotional people aren't silent, or emotionally mature people are not silent. As a matter of fact, the emotionally mature people are the ones who know how to communicate the best. And they don't necessarily avoid conflict. Again, I think this is another false perception of emotionally mature people is, oh, I've always got to be the bigger person, or I've always got to take the high road, or no, emotionally mature people don't avoid conflict. We just handle it differently. So
yeah, it's responding with an alignment in your values and not, you know, your reaction to things.
Yeah, exactly. It's not impulsive. It's something that is with intention. And I think that's super big. And I think that's something we talk about all the time, because like I remember early in our relationships, like, like when you would apologize, you would always say like, I didn't mean to hurt you. Like my intentions were never blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, baby, I understand your intention already. That's why, you know, that's why it is so easy for me to forgive. And I think with emotional maturity, you have to have a certain level of intent with everything that you choose, because when you have good intentions, it leads to better conflict resolution and things of that nature, which is why I was saying earlier that, emotionally mature people, we don't avoid conflict. We typically just handle it differently. We handle it with the intent of resolution. We don't handle it with the intent of domination, or not even with the intent of victory, because
it's not to win.
It's not a win-lose thing. It's let's resolve this. Let's compromise, and let's handle this so that both of us
it's not pointing
can agree.
the finger.
It's again with the intention for resolution and compromise. It's not something that is a win or lose. It's not a battle, and that's just, I think that's what makes gaining that sense of emotional maturity so essential in life, and I think it just makes life so much more peaceful as it goes on.
I like that.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, man. And I just think, it's important, especially when, especially in our relationships, like any relationships, whether it's, the ones that you love or friendships or family, I think
the same rule applies across the board.
Yeah, I think people fail to realize though, like I think people think that emotional maturity also means that like everybody's gonna like you, and that's not the case. Actually,
it's learning to be okay with the fact that not everybody has to like you, and that's okay.
Yeah, and also it's you'll come to realize that, the more emotionally mature you become, it actually creates distance oftentimes between those who are not there, and that is also okay. It's kind of like when people say, some people are here for a season, some people are here for a reason, things of that nature. But again, I think when you become emotionally mature, you kind of shed off this previous version of yourself that was accepting of certain people. And, when you become emotionally mature, I also think you just kind of evolve into a different person. You evolve into someone who is accepting of different things, and you kind of outgrow the things that you used to accept and the behaviors that you allow around you and things of that nature. Oh yeah,
so it's all part of the growth factor within yourself, because one thing that I had saw was when you start out a relationship with somebody, like a lot of the time it starts off by you connecting over wounds. You know what I mean? Like you both have went through similar things, or that's how you're able to relate. So you build this relationship off of that. But then, over time, like if one of those people choose to heal, they choose to heal from their hurt, their trauma, their things, they begin to change as a person. And the other person can end up feeling stagnant because they're not putting in that same work. And a lot of the time, those are the relationship that you see fail because, if I'm putting in all this work and you're still staying in the same place, still sulking in everything that you've been through, instead of trying to grow from it or be better or to experience more out of life, at some point there's going to be some type of breakage that happens within that relationship, because now we're on two different planes. Like I'm, exceeding and trying to just move on with my life, and you're just kind of just sitting behind. And I hate when that happens because, that's been me. Like I've been stuck in those places where I've watched people go on with their lives and I still was just, well, what about me? Not realizing like, oh shit, like I can also do something about this.
Yeah, I think, like you said, in regards to growth, it's just a certain level of emotional maturity that comes with growth. And I don't think I don't think either one can happen without the other. Especially when, you're trying to grow in life. I think the biggest thing is that with growth has to come change. You can't expect to be doing the same things over and over again and repeating yourself over and over again and expecting different results.
Yeah, one quote that I liked was growth isn't painless, it's intentional.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a fact.
It's just something that makes you go,
Yeah, no, it's definitely intentional, 100%, because it has to be intentional because you have to want it.
Yeah.
You have to want it with the desire to be better or the intent to be better, to better yourself and those around you and things of that nature.
And that comes with anything in life. It's the same way that, like, for this podcast, for example, like, we want to see it grow. We want to get to the point where we make a bigger set, have guests, and, like, really, but it takes time and it takes work. It takes effort and consistency. It's the same thing that you can apply to almost anything in life.
Yeah, no, that's a whole fact. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Oh, sorry guys. It is nighttime and we just had dinner, so the itis is starting to kick in for me. All right, awesome, man. Well, I like that. I like this episode, and I would like to move on to our reflection segment where we can talk about, the things that like emotional maturity had cost us, you know what I mean? Whether it being friendships or whatever the case is. You want to start us off? Or you want me to go first? What do you want? What do you think?
Start us off.
Yeah, I mean, as far as emotional maturity and the things that it cost me, definitely, losing certain friends, but I think loneliness is probably the biggest thing, is having those moments of, when you're locked in, it sucks because oftentimes you feel alone in the journey. You feel like when I was locked in on my fitness shit super heavy, I didn't really have like a group of people that were with me working out and getting, lit with me and all this extra shit. Like,
you pushed yourself to do it.
Instead, I had to like push myself into that growth. And that's when I discovered that like sometimes within growth, there's like loneliness in there, because you're wanting to become a better person. And of course, the friends that you have right now are the friends that accept you the way that you are. And you guys are relating because of the way you are right now. So when you're going through that growth phase, there's that change where like now you're all about gym shit and healthy shit, and then your friends are just not on that type of time, And it's not to say that makes them bad friends. Like, I still love my friends, even though I be wanting to be on some healthy shit and I be wanting to take care of myself. Like, that doesn't take away from my friends. It just, again, through that growth, you experience loneliness. And I think that's like one of the biggest things that emotional maturity cost me is like, it's realizing or coming to the realization that, through this growth, through this growth period, like I had to almost become like, that's where I really developed a lot of my emotional maturity. So it's like, it cost me a lot of my old friends. It cost me a lot of my old habits. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things emotional maturity has cost me for sure. What about you?
My biggest thing was just like learning to be okay with like, I guess similarly, like losing people, because I used to be a big people pleaser. So like I was always more, I guess you could say, like focused on trying to avoid conflict and be quick to like resolve whatever it is by being quick to apologize. Even if I know I didn't do anything wrong, somehow I was still apologizing to benefit the other person's feelings instead of my own.
Like almost choosing silence to maintain peace.
Literally. Mm-hmm. And I think once I started, getting into that habit of maturing emotionally, I was able to get better at setting boundaries for myself and learning the art of saying no and not having to give a long drawn out explanation as to why my answer is no, or as to why I'm setting these boundaries, because it just is what I'm saying. Like, I don't need to explain in full depth or full detail to cater to your feelings. Like, I need to be able to put myself first in certain situations. You know what I mean? So, like, not everybody's okay with that. Some people expect more from you, or expect you to bend over backwards regardless of the situation. And, like, I'm just at a point where I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, I am starting to put myself first and set those boundaries. And, like, you know, it is what it is. You're going to either respect it or you're going to hate me for it. But that's a choice that you have to make. You know, I'm not going to force your hand at it, but I'm also not going to sit here and apologize for things I know I didn't do, or keep my mouth shut because you're more upset than me. Like, I'm not feeling that anymore.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that wholeheartedly, and I feel that 1,000,000%. That whole just like feeling the need to always be the bigger person. Again, that's the false shit that people think emotional maturity is like.
And sometimes like being the bigger person is cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes
now, don't get me wrong, pick and choose your battles, and
yeah.
Yes, there are situations that aren't worth exerting, again, negative energy for, like, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to avoid, like, again, it's not a matter of avoiding conflict, it's a matter of handling it differently.
Yeah, because it doesn't mean, like, staying in toxic situations just for the betterment of somebody else or whatever the case is, because, like, that's the thing, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to push through that and not focus so much on others and their feelings. Like, sometimes you do have to focus on you and yourself.
No, it's a fact. I like that. I like that, man. All right, baby. Well, let's send them home. You guys already know what it is. Tell the feelers who are in tune. You guys already know we always leave you guys with a question that you guys can answer in the comments below, because you never know when the why in your story is silent and it becomes our story. And the final listener question that I would like to leave you guys with is, where in your life are you learning to respond instead of react? Again, drop it in the comments below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on the socials. Until next time, guys, keep feeling,
keep sharing,
and keep it real within the feels, baby.
Woo!